All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a seriously dark piece of supernatural folklore known as cult Tantra. It's an absolutely chilling story that perfectly captures what happens when people try to cheat their own destinies using forces they, frankly, do not understand. Take a listen to this. Never forget the crows, for they do not forgive. That ominous warning from a mysterious tantric is literally the terrifying core of our entire narrative today. It establishes one absolutely unbreakable rule. The entities you bargain with in this lore, they aren't forgiving forces of nature, they're highly transactional, and they are absolutely merciless if you cross them.
So, let's start with part 1, poverty and desperation.
To really grasp the extreme lengths our main guy, Ajitesh, goes to, you have to look at the painful contrast of his daily reality. Imagine this. Ajitesh is living in Kanpur with his wife and young son, just drowning in unending debt trying to run a failing go-down. Meanwhile, his older brother Suresh is living it up in Lucknow with a massive house and fancy cars. And you know what the worst part is for Ajitesh? It's not even the lack of money. It's the condescending pity he constantly gets from his brother. That deep-seated resentment, that is exactly what primes him for what comes next.
And that brings us to the tantric. Picture this scene. It's a freezing, foggy winter night, and wandering through the neighborhood is this hunched mystic with stark white hair shouting into the dark that he can change broken destinies. Oh, and he's carrying 2 crows perched right on his shoulders. Everyone else is just watching safely from their windows, but Ajitesh, he's so desperate, so unable to sleep, that he decides to track this man down the very next morning.
Which leads us to part 2, the secret of Kokant Tantra.
The Tantric introduces Ajitesh to this dark practice. In this specific lore, crows aren't just birds. They act as messengers for ancestors. They serve as a literal portal between the living and the dead, and they can actually bend reality to pull off impossible tasks. But, as with any dark art, this kind of power demands a very specific living fuel.
The tantric lays out this terrifyingly intimate blood pact. Check out these steps. Ajitesh has to physically cut his own finger every single morning, mix his actual human blood with grain, and feed it to the crows. The catch? He cannot miss a single day. If he does, the supernatural protection shatters, and destruction follows. Completely driven by desperation, Ajitesh agrees right then and there, and he initiates the pact by feeding the 2 crows sitting on the tantric's shoulders. Now, just to show you how terrifyingly effective this dark bargain was, 3 years. A massive business deal of Ajitesh's had been completely dead in the water for exactly 3 years. After starting this blood ritual, it closed in the very first week. Suddenly, money is just flooding in. He buys a beautiful new home, his family is thriving, and he's living in pure luxury.
But of course, we arrive at part 3, a horrifying mistake. Because human hubris always takes over, right? Years pass, and Ajitesh gets entirely swallowed up by his newfound wealth. That raw desperation that used to drive him to cut his finger every morning, it fades. He gets comfortable, he gets lazy. First, he drops the ritual down to just once a week, and eventually, he forgets to feed the crows altogether. He broke the one sacred rule.
Well, the universe doesn't forget. These terrifying omens start popping up, signaling that the debt collectors of the dark arts have arrived. At first it's small. A single crow sits on his expensive car every morning, just cawing aggressively. He shoos it away. But then it escalates. He finds a completely dead crow left right on his front doorstep. And what does he do? He just throws it in the trash, completely ignoring the massive supernatural threat heading his way.
And that kicks off part 4, the countdown begins.
It's basically a total financial freefall. Over a matter of days, more dead crows keep appearing at his door. Within weeks, massive, inexplicable business losses hit him all at once, literally as if someone is just draining his accounts. Months in, his business partner commits fraud and completely vanishes. And then the ultimate blow at the end of the year, his massive go-down catches fire and burns completely to the ground.
Now totally bankrupt and unable to afford their luxury home, the family flees silently back to their old ruined house. But when they get there, the visceral dread really sets in. Every single wall, every railing, the branches of the nearby trees, they are completely covered in silent, staring crows. They don't fly away, they don't make a sound, they just stare, knowing exactly who just walked back through the door.
The financial ruin is done. Now, the entities are coming for the physical toll.
Which leaves us asking, will Ajitesh actually be able to save his life?
And in absolute panic, Ajitesh tries to restart the ritual. He cuts his finger. He offers the blood, but the crows completely ignore it. The bridge is burned. Inside the house, his now 15-year-old son suddenly goes completely mute. The kid starts obsessively drawing black crows until his hands are stained pitch black. And the most terrifying part? Ajitesh wakes up to find deep, black beak marks appearing on his own neck out of nowhere. Desperate, he goes looking for the original Tantric, and he finds him. The guy is half dead, mutilated on the floor of his hut, surrounded by crows. The Tantric just screams at him, "Fool! Because of you I am in this state. They will take everything!" That's when Ajitesh realizes his broken promise was so catastrophic, it even destroyed the master who taught him.
Which brings us to part 5, the terrifying climax. Ajitesh rushes home and confesses everything to his terrified wife. That very night, the sky above their house turns pitch black. First 10, then 100, then thousands of crows swarm the sky, completely blocking out the stars, and their deafening caws slice right through the night air like an alarm for an impending execution.
Suddenly, a scream comes from the son's room. The curse has decided to use his innocent child as the ultimate weapon of vengeance. Ajitesh runs in, and his 15-year-old is having bizarre seizures, his arms flapping violently like a dying bird. His eyes turn blood red, his face blackens, and his lips literally morph into a beak. Possessed entirely by this dark entity, the son brutally attacks and kills his own father right there on the floor. The exact second Ajitesh is dead, the windows burst open. Hundreds of crows flood inside the house to consume his remains. Instantly, the son collapses, returning entirely back to normal. The possession ended the second the debt was paid in blood. The traumatized wife grabs her son and they flee into the night forever. And it's said that even today, that ruined house stands completely abandoned, still swarming with 100 hovering crows.
So I want to leave you with this final, provocative thought. The story of Cock Tantra shows us that when you try to take a dark shortcut to escape your reality, what price are you truly willing to pay? And more importantly, who ultimately comes to collect the debt? Every ounce of unearned wealth in these stories demands a pound of flesh. Thank you for exploring this fascinating lore with me in today's explainer.